Looking to build your red iron metal building? Stick around because in this video, we are going over from permitting to pricing, all in this video.
Let's go.
So welcome back, Pack. It's Anadela and David here, and today we are going to a city north of Arlington, out by Dallas, called Mound, and we're going to be going over another solid build.
Yes, ma'am. Today we're going to go over a 30x43 red iron bolt-up. Used as a garage storage building, and we're not going to dig into just the building, but the actual permit and the whole process itself as well.
Correct. So we know that permitting isn't necessarily the fun part of the planning process, especially when you're getting a building. That's kind of the funner part, and then you talk about paperwork and not fun at all, right?
Not.
But trust us, it definitely can make or break your timeline and your budget. So that's what we're going to be going over here.
Yeah, so definitely. So if you guys want to check out the tour of the building that we're going to talk about today, click on the link below. We're going to talk a lot about permits, HOA requirements, and we're going to address a few comments on our YouTube. So
this project, I think what made it kind of different was the fact that it took 6 months before we could even get construction started. So 6 months of just permitting in the city of Mound. So again, if you're looking to, get a purchase like this started and you need it by a specific date, very important if we start looking at permitting and kind of requirements that you're gonna need beforehand. That way you don't get kind of a little shocked of how that permitting process can look.
Yes, ma'am.
So stick around, guys. We are gonna talk a little bit about tips on things to do before your project.
Yep, so don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.
Let's go. Okay, so permits. So before we talk about pricing, we're actually gonna go over permits, because before you can kind of get your project going, you have to go through the permit process beforehand.
Yes. Now, people ask us all the time if we take care of permits. The answer is yes. It all depends on your building, your location, and what all you're getting as well, because there's specific things that we don't help with permits on.
Correct. Location being the biggest one. In this specific city, there was a lot of requirements. With Mound, we were actually building like 4 or 5 projects at one time there. And so we've been building a lot there, so we've been pretty familiar with the process, the permitting process at least. Yeah. I think James, our permitting manager, is kind of over the fact whenever we see Mound, because he already knows. He's like, okay, I know what I'm getting myself into, and he already knows what his team is looking forward to on there. So there was a long list to follow, and so that's why it's really important to check before you get started. That way you're saving yourself a lot of time. We got lucky that we kind of already know the city, so we're able to kind of see how that is. But for this project, again, because there was a lot of rules to follow, we did have to go with the red iron bolt-up.
Yep.
So David, can you talk to us a little bit about the difference between bolt-up and Weld-Up?
Yeah, of course. So bolt-ups are very simple. They are the best product that you can possibly buy because of the engineering that goes behind it. It's manufactured inside a facility. It comes within stamped engineer plans. The construction process is a lot faster. Weld-Up's still a great product. We do our own framing plans in-house before we actually go to the property and build it. But it is a lot more time consuming. We fabricate and weld on site. There's a lot of attention to details. The timeline to actually construct the building itself takes a little bit longer. So they're both great buildings. One comes with engineer plans, one doesn't. One takes a little bit shorter a timeline to construct. The other one takes a little bit longer. You're still gonna get a great product.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the biggest things, differences between that. Bolt-ups do take longer. So if you're getting a bolt-up, it can take longer to get all that in, because they are, of course, fabricating and doing everything before it gets to your site. They just go up there and they're just bolting it together, hence bolt-up. Yeah. Now, if you're doing a red iron weld-up, that is welded up on site. So that definitely is what you would see with the differences there. We do have a video, my apologies. We do have a video where we are going over the differences between a 30x40 in a tubular, which we do also offer, and we'll go over pricing on that, versus a red iron weld-up versus a red iron bolt-up. Yeah. So we do pin our 3 products against each other. So definitely check it out. It will be linked up above and also in the description down below.
Why do permits matter? Permits matter because it's going to determine whether if you're going to need engineer plans, not engineer plans, and also dictate the cost difference between permits or not permits, engineer plans or not engineer plans. you're gonna have to budget for anywhere between $2,000 to $5,000 just for engineered plans alone.
For the building, correct.
Yeah.
Also, another thing is even with our permitting, there is fees that are associated with pulling the permit, and also there is a fee that we charge to have our team go out there. So there's different things that can be affected with your permits. One thing though, you did mention $2,000 to $5,000 for those engineered plans. For our bolt-ups, that's included into the price.
Yes.
Because the bolt-ups do come with engineered stamps, so that's already included on there. What's not included is the foundation. So if you have to get an engineered foundation, that's not included in pricing.
I do want to bring that up, talking about the foundation itself, that if you are going to need an engineered foundation, keep in mind that it's not just a set of plans, but you might actually need a soil test. The soil test is one of the biggest things that you need for an engineered building. Depending on the size of the building, it can determine, and the actual soil test results, you might need piers, you might not need piers. So those are the things that people don't really take into consideration.
Yeah.
The use of the building can determine the soil test, and the size of the building will determine everything. So that's something to take into consideration.
Lots of things in there. We do talk a little bit about the soil test down below, further down in the video, but we don't go too much in detail. We do have a video, I think, where you guys go over commercial buildings, and then we'll definitely do a video, I think another video where we'll maybe go into more detail, especially for those customers that are having to deal with it.
Yeah.
But now let's kind of switch over from the not so fun part to a maybe a little bit funner part, or at least what people are looking to see, right? Which is money.
Which is money, yeah, totally. So the total turnkey cost for this particular project was $84,457 with 68 cents. So what's included in that cost? That includes the 30 by 43 by 20 bolt-up red iron metal building, the accessories, which is the overhead doors, the walk-in doors, the windows, and the gutter system as well. Concrete for the building only, not site prep, not anything additional. The materials, the labor, the taxes, the delivery, the equipment, and yes, the porta potty fee, because we don't want to make a mess on your property.
We're keeping it classy, y'all.
Yeah, we're keeping it classy.
So yeah, again, because these buildings take a little bit longer, there is a porta potty fee included with the red iron buildings.
Yeah, and remember, this cost is only for 5 days after the post date.
Correct. Another thing, all of our buildings are I-beam. I don't think we stress that enough. When you're comparing pricing, is what type of material is your building being built with. This one, and I think just our Weld-Ups in general, are all I-beam.
Yeah, so all of our Weld-Ups are all I-beam from front to back. Engineers will, if you're gonna get an engineered bolt-up, they're actually gonna determine what material use it's gonna be on your building. But for the most part, most of our buildings are full I-beam buildings.
Correct. So again, when we say equipment, is this material is very heavy material. If you ever come into our office, we have a bit of just samples, and it's just a little bit, but man, even those things are a little bit heavier to lift, even when we're moving things around. So
doesn't matter how much we go to the gym, we still need equipment for these I-beams.
So building breakdown, guys, again, as David mentioned, this building is a 30 wide, 43 long, which is a little bit different, 43 feet compared to the standard 30 by 40.
I think he wanted to maximize as much as he can, staying within the setbacks. That was the reason why the 43 was max.
Okay. Yeah. So it is being used as a garage/storage. You do see that in all of the B-rolls. It has a 16-foot leg height, and that again is he had a restriction at 20 feet at the peak.
At the peak, yep.
Correct.
Yep.
So that 16 again, just maximizing as much to the space that he had due to restrictions from either city or HOA information. So 16 foot at the leg height. It does have a standard 312 pitch roof. It has again that 20 feet at the peak height, and standard with our red iron buildings is 26 gauge PBR panels. And this color specifically, color scheme is charcoal gray and polar white, and those do come with a 40-year paint warranty. We do have information, guys, on your panels, 26 gauge versus 29 gauge. We do only offer 29 gauge in tubular, not our red irons, but make sure you check the link down below. And then of course, little things that we add onto the buildings, which is like trim that helps kind of give it that finished look. So the total building cost of everything that we mentioned earlier is $49,174 with 68 cents.
Yep, and the accessories. The accessories for this particular project, like we mentioned, was two 12 by 14 insulated garage overhead doors in the color gray. carriage style panels, the garage door openers that actually come with an app where you can actually open it, with your phone.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah. The walk-in door, the double pane insulated windows, the gutter system, all the accessories for this particular project were $17,790.
Biggest one there is what we were mentioning earlier, David, is now foundation.
Yeah.
So again, your building is only as good as what it's sitting on, right?
Yep.
So some of our projects do require engineered foundation. So again, because this project had to do with a lot of those things, they had to deal with like geotech, soil tests, which in this case took about 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then it can be longer, it can be less, just depends. And then of course the engineers have to match the foundation to the building specs.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that can delay the projects once you're having to get into
It's a whole process. It's definitely a whole process. You need the building plans to finish the foundation plans. You need the soil test to determine everything. So it's definitely a process. But again, that can really affect your timeline if you're planning for a certain deadline. If you want your building in a certain time, you need to plan ahead. That's one of the biggest things. But I digress. The total cost for this engineered foundation was $17,493. That includes the foundation, footings, vapor barrier, and the notch details. Site prep is not included just because it's particular to every single person's property. Elevations are different in everybody's property, so yeah.
Yeah, so I think we actually mentioned that in the tour. Again, the tour is going to be linked down below or up above, but you can even see like the elevation. One of the tricks that I think we've been taught from our site team is if there's fences, to take a look at that, and you can actually see just how much the fence like draws.
Oh, I was actually at that property.
Yeah.
I went to go do that site visit, and I remember seeing it, and I was like, oh, this is going to be, it's gonna be a lot.
So from like where his original driveway ends to where like the building, because we did do a concrete approach on there. Again, not included in the price because it's dependent on your area and
elevations.
Correct.
And how far
so
back.
It's about, I think they said like 24 inches, so about 2 feet from there to there. So the building is already raised, and then we had to actually have a retaining wall in the back.
Towards the back.
It was like this. I don't even know.
So it was on the back. It was one of the side walls and towards the back because there was a huge drop, and we didn't want the water from that. There's a pond on the next door neighbor, and if it overflows, it can go into the building. So the retaining wall on that side wall, and then the back wall is to avoid water getting into that building because of that huge slope as well.
Yeah, so and then obviously it continues going down to where he has this pool area.
Yep.
Yeah, so lots of things. I think in general, Advo mentions it in the tour that as he was driving up, like the location itself was very hilly. So things to always consider when you're doing, and we do that in the site visit.
Yeah.
We look into your elevation, how off level is it, your drainage. There's like drainage plans and things like that. So lots of things that go into those site visits. So that's why they're very, very important. And that's why we can't include your pricing, because we can't tell you how much dirt you're gonna need. And sometimes you look at it and you're like, that looks good.
It's not.
But it's not good. I can't remember what rule the guys typically say, but they say like, if it's eye level, it's typically like a certain amount off level.
6 inches off level or something like that.
So we can't see, and then I use contacts and glasses, so I really can't see, but I hope that our guys can see a little bit.
I got LASIK, but I think it's wearing off.
But David, once again, WolfSteel Buildings is the place and the company to go to if you're looking to get different types of buildings, right? So we do offer 2 product lines, which is our Tubular and our red iron metal buildings.
Exactly.
This specific building was a red iron bolt-up. If the customer would have been kind of, you sold the client, you and the dream team, your information will be on here. So you and Jane kind of went through with the client. Sometimes clients are like, hey, I'm debating on the pricing, what am I gonna need, things like that. You guys go back and forth. Sometimes y'all switch between tubular and red iron. In this case, if the customer would have gone with tubular, what are we looking at difference-wise?
Yep, so the tubular cost for this particular project, it would have been $72,673. Again, the price for the red iron was $84,457. So there's a pretty big difference in the cost there. But overall, we decided to go with the red iron. That's what the client wanted. Now, what makes them different? Mainly is the material being used to construct the project, right? So Tubular Buildings, we would use a 12-gauge framing. Again, 20-year rust warranty is the best product, especially for an engineered building. 26-gauge ag panel, again, helps with minimizing oil canning, helps with high wind area, stuff like that. And then same for the accessories, standard concrete work, but engineering plans are not included in this price because that's separate, because tubular buildings are actually different engineering process.
Yeah. So there's different engineering that goes into it, and also different material that goes into it.
Yeah.
So again, different costs, different pricing.
So if engineering is needed for tubulars, just plan. The difference, there's a lot of planning differences in this one.
Correct.
Yeah.
So again, guys, this video had so much information. Obviously, we go into a lot with permitting. Very, very important. Check beforehand. We do have a video on permitting, and I'll also link it for you guys. That way you guys can see it. I know that sometimes it's a little hard and customers want to kind of like get information on permitting beforehand. There's obviously the website of like, where does my city belong, right? Because sometimes you have to like, where do I live, your city, your county, right? Look into their websites and their information, but we do have a video and a page on our website, which we will have all linked down below for you guys to do your research, start looking into it, call our team, so that way you guys know. Again, very important to have that peace of mind. I think WolfSteel Buildings, that's one of the biggest things, is we want to make sure that we tell you guys everything up front and the potential of the cost that can be up front, rather than like, oh yeah, this is the price of the building, you're good. And then later on down the line, you're like, you're gonna have to pull your permits, you're gonna have to pull all this, so you don't realize the costs that add up. We tell you guys straight up
that's not
how that's gonna look.
That's definitely not a good thing whenever you try to sell a project, try to help out a client, and at the end of the day, it's like, oh, you know what? I need more money for this, and things that, it could have been accounted for. So that's why we plan, first, make sure we get all the right information, present that information to you, and then from there we kind of, start working together to make this happen. So like I said, we do help with permitting, but only if you buy the building and the foundation. And the reason why is because if you are going to get the concrete from somebody else, they have to get the permits for the foundation, for the concrete. If you need permits. If you don't need permits, then you're more than welcome to get your own concrete with somebody else. But if you need permits, the only way that we can help you with permits is if you get both the building and the foundation as well.
This is something new that we did just start. So if you're watching, maybe you've been watching an older video and you see maybe different information. This is the kind of something new that we're starting, and the reason is the more that we pull permits, the more that we realize everything that's going on in those permitting offices. James was actually, and we mentioned it in the tour, he was letting us know, hey, like you go in there, because of all of the moves and all of the just growth that Texas is experiencing, the permitting offices are, swamped, and they're having to deal with commercial permits, residential permits, and your add-on shed that or garage or workshop or whatever, utility building, whatever it is that you're wanting to add on to your property. So all of these things they're having to look at. So there's obviously a delay in permitting, but because of that, they're wanting to make sure that they're dealing with just one person. And then a lot of the times they ask us, okay, for you to get the building, again, they go hand in hand, and that's one of the reasons why we offer concrete. They go hand in hand. So when that happens, they ask us for the building or for the concrete information. We just have the building information. So then we have to go through and kind of go through you as the client, with the middleman of, hey, who's your concrete contractor? And then we probably haven't worked with them. We have to create that relationship. So it becomes a little bit more of a hassle. So if you're getting your concrete with someone else, again, no permits, not an issue. But if you are getting them, we won't be able to further assist you with our permitting information or our permitting team to help you pull those permits. You will be now held liable for those.
And you said a big thing, it's a hassle. And that's why we offer a one-stop shop. It's a hassle-free, process from start to finish. So it's something to take into consideration for sure.
Yeah, so again, regardless of the process of your project can be extensive, it's still a tedious process, guys. You're still gonna have to go through, especially like your soil test, your concrete, if it's engineered, your concrete, your building, and then you have accessories and things like that. So there is timelines. You guys do provide timelines of best possible case scenario versus worst. So that's if there's potential weather, or sometimes holidays can be affected with like permitting, things of those sorts.
Or peak season. Summer's coming around, it's peak season. Everybody's busy. It's hard to get to everything, ASAP. So it's all underneath the process. Exactly.
So again, if you're thinking of getting a metal building, check your local requirements first, guys. Saving yourself time and money. Time is money. And then if you have like maybe insights on permits, maybe that you're experiencing or that you're currently experiencing, drop them down below. We'd love to hear them and get some insights. And then again, if you are interested in a metal building, make sure to reach out to David and his team, the Dream Team. What is your slogan?
If you dream it, we can build it.
There you go.
I have a couple, so I had to think of which one I wanted to use today.
And again, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys in the next one.